America. Let's get this money.
What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy. Happy Friday, you suckers. Happy payday, you suckers. Let me tell you something. First off, I wanted to do this show. I'm trying to stay within the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I wanted to do this one and air this one like right now, like as I'm done with this right now, put it out there. But I had to put it in the can, give you a little something. Now, I had gave you guys a homework assignment Wednesday, and I told you to go check out the show, The Legacy of J Dilla on Hulu, if you have Hulu. It was a New York Times piece called The Legacy of J Dilla. And that's what today's show is going to be about. That's what it's going to be about. First off, let's see. Let me make sure I cover all bases. Got a granddaughter. My granddaughter, Kinsley, came in I'd say Easter Saturday. Big deal, was on pins and needles with that, getting the information on it, but she is a healthy, looking like a mama little girl. So I got more girls. Nothing wrong with you girls, but I mean, come on, I need a balance, man. I need a balance, man. You know what I mean? Anyway, so I have a new granddaughter. Still doing my fundraiser, which I have the link up for that. I think that's it, covering those bases. Let's talk about the legacy of J Dilla. Now, J Dilla is a guy that, if you're familiar with 90s hip-hop groups like Tribe Called Quest, Lucy Pearl, Raphael Sadiq, who came from Tony, and then he went on to do stuff himself. Jazzy Jeff was in this, telling the story. If you're familiar with the Soul Aquarians, that's a group that was started. If you're familiar with any of that stuff, then you know about J Dilla, but you didn't know about J Dilla. A lot of the tracks a good, perfect example, the song Running Away. There was a song called Running by the Far Side. Can't keep running away. J Dilla did that beat. And a few other classics. But he was a guy that was very quiet, and it wasn't until he passed, which was literally 3 days after his 32nd birthday, then he became bigger, which is always the case. So this guy had beat tapes out there. He was a prolific producer. And the thing that made him stand out as a producer beyond other producers was the way that he would utilize the equipment and the techniques that he would use making these beats. So there's an MC, for people that are not in the game as far as the rap industry, sorry, DMC told me not to say that. DMC for Run DMC got on me one time when I had interviewed him and I had said something about the rap game. His thing was, this ain't a game to me, and I knew right then and there, stop saying that. So anyway, within the rap industry, one of the tools is the MPC. And the MPC is a drum machine that allows you to take samples and, make beats and all that, grooves, you can play it like a keyboard, so on and so forth. But what J Dilla did was, he went beyond the norms of just sampling and putting a beat on top of the sample and all of that, and playing tracks over it, or playing melodies and stuff over it. He was manipulating the samples. Sometimes he would have the samples talk in the track. Sometimes he would have, he was just phenomenal. He was phenomenal. If you didn't see that documentary, you need to. If you did, then we're up to speed. So he was one of my favorite producers. And when I found out he was an Aquarian, that made it even more, because I'm an Aquarian. And I love the dude. So anyway, his story is that he was prolific in producing, and he ended up, fast forward everything, he ended up passing with lupus. Now, the story started to take a dark turn, and to me, that's why they did this, was they were trying to point out that aspect, and that's the part I don't like about the show, was that they were more focused on all the drama of this man dying. But there was a lesson within that. I'm a silver lining, optimistic type of guy. There was a lesson within that. So what ended up happening was on his deathbed, his mother, his management, and one other person who was executing, they came up with a will. And the executor of the will and the management pretty much were taking his legacy and his estate, and they were doing things with it that they thought, it's business. They were carrying out business. Now, business, for the most part, is contract. That's the foundation. There's a contract involved for business to go down. That's the trust aspect of doing business. Usually there's some form of a contract. So this contract was going on, but within what the executors of the will were doing, they weren't looking out for the family. So J Dilla's mother, aka Mann, she took it upon herself to take some of his products and his beats and things like that. She would sell them, and basically she was monetizing his art, and she felt she had the right to do that because she made Dilla is her son. And as she said something about she made him. She didn't ask to make him, so why should she ask to use his artwork? Something to the tune of that. And I kind of believe in that too, but also being a person who's a businessman and understands business and understands the discipline of business and what capitalism is in America, which is what I talked about in the last show. Contracts clearly state what you can and cannot do. So it's up to you, if you're going to enter into a contract, to fully understand the contract before you sign it. And I think what happens is people get intimidated by contracts, or they'll get intimidated, or the contract will have something to do with them getting an end result that they want. So they start thinking emotionally instead of rationally. So you end up signing off to something because here's a check for $500,000 or some amount that you've not even used to. Okay. So business-wise, J Dilla's mother was wrong for doing what she was doing, but ethically and morally, she was right, because the company, these people that took over the will, were not looking out for J Dilla and his family. And that was the whole point of why he was doing what he was doing. All right. So legal battles ensued and stuff is what they were basically getting at. Now, that subject hits home for me, and I won't go too deep in it, but I'm sure it might hit home for other people too. When someone passes, if there is no will or there is a will, usually people are scrounging and scraping and fighting over the scraps. And that's when you start to see people's true colors. When people are fighting over a person who passed, you're fighting over what's left of that person. So that's what this whole thing was about. Now, why am I talking about that? Because I want you to, after this is over, if you're not on it already, look into your estate. I don't care if you have nothing. Look into your estate. Look into a will. Look into your future. This is hitting home for me because I'm 50 and I don't have a will and I need to work on it. But at the same time, I'm also doing my research on how probate, wills, and ways to protect my family will come into play, because I do see myself as someone, when I pass, having a lot. And I do not want my daughters fighting each other. I do not want my family fighting over anything. It will be clearly designed. But I'm going to take it a step further. I'm doing the research on how wealthy people do it, how the Rockefellers do it, how the Vanderbilts messed up, how the Kennedys are still doing what they do, how the royal family is doing what they do. You know, Rockefeller, the Queen, Princess Diana, these people are people who have passed, but their people after them are taken care of for the rest of their life, and their people, and their people, and their people, and their people are taken care of for the rest of their lives. And the thing is, everyone has access to doing this, but it's not common knowledge. Now, if you want to know more information about it, I got an ebook. Or I should say this, I got some information if you want. Hit me below. Give me your, DM me or, however you can find a way, even in the comments. If you want a copy of some of this information, I'd be glad to share it with you. Okay? Because it's unfair that there are a small group of people who know how to do everything. And the majority of us don't. And also in the same vein, I realize that some people just don't. They just aren't ready for it. They won't be ready for it. They don't want to be ready for it. And it has a lot to do with our conditioning. That's a sad situation. So I don't expect a whole lot of people to come to me and say they want a copy of this. But that right there in itself is what real life is about. There's a reason they used to say that the library is where the lies are buried. Or statements like, if you want to hide something from a black person, and this actually applies to everybody. Okay, really. If you want to hide something from someone, put it in a book. With instant gratification and great shows on TV like The Legacy of J Dilla and all that on there, it's you can get lost in not doing the research on this stuff. But I am urging you, get out there and learn this stuff, man, because terms like infinite banking, cash flow insurance, I'll give you those two just so you can look it up and go down the rabbit hole. If you understand what those things are, you can set your grandkids and great-grandkids up for life. You can set them up now for life. So I'm reading this book and I read like the cliff notes of this one particular book, and then I'm going to read the actual book. And in that book, he was comparing the Vanderbilt legacy to the Kennedy legacy, and basically said that the Vanderbilts blew through their money and the Kennedys are still living off the money from the original person that came with all the money. So if you want to know about how to do that, just let me know. But I think you need to do that. All right. Insurance and other forms of protection and the mindset that goes along with those things. If you are aware of the things that you should be doing to protect yourself, you would probably switch up the things that you do now if you really care. And in my case, that's my situation. I'm on this kick to retire at 50. I got a few months left. I mean, having a GoFundMe and all that stuff isn't really helping, but it doesn't mean it's not achievable. All right? You just have to have the mindset. And I'm always about that ever since I've heard about that. Okay? You can be wealthy beyond your dreams if you have the right mindset. You can be wealthy and work at 7-Eleven, a car dealership, the hospital, a 501c3 company, if you have the mindset. I probably should have been talking about this on Monday, but I mean, like I said, I was bubbling to get this story out there. So, what I wrote down here: protect yourself, protect your family, protect your legacy. Get to know your estate. Estate is not just a word for the wealthy and the rich. You are an estate. Get your estate in order. That's what I'm trying to do. I was actually thinking about having like a book club or like some kind of group where we talk frequently about things like this. I might still do it. If you're interested in that or something, let's talk about that too. Because that's been something that's been heavy on my mind, like a Zoom call with a group of people who just want to know what want to know the real. You know, the stuff I'm finding out and the things I read about are the real. Some of the questions that people have, I have the answers to.
Trouble with you is you're prejudiced against me because I'm part of a minority group.
What minority group?
Millionaires. You outnumber us, but you'll never get us. Fight for our rights to the bitter end. We've got the money to do it.